Hello, fair YouTube viewer. I am Southern Wolverine, and this is episode 17 of Operation Laythe. For those of you who watched the previous episode, this is the space plane that just went and landed on the moon, as ridiculous as that sound. And it almost ran out of fuel getting back to moon orbit, but just had enough to get close to the station. I had to use the station actually here in and of itself to try to come rendezvous with the ship. And it was a whole thing. I did it off camera because I didn't want to embarrass myself by crashing things up. As it was, I had a bit of a collision. You see, there are two solar panels missing. The one that's here and the one that's over there. That may or may not be because I hit them with the wing of my space plane. But it is almost certainly because of that. But in any case, we've made it up here through prodigious use of RCS, the station coming down to meet us partway, and through sheer dumb luck. So I've fueled the ship back up. I've loaded up the pure liquid fuel tanks, the jet fuel tanks, if you will, because we may need to fly a while when we get back to Kerban in order to reach a safe landing zone. Preferably right at the Kerbal Space Center. That'd be awesome if we could pull that off. Not sure how realistic that is, but that is the goal. Otherwise, failing that, we're going to just pick a likely field and go for it from there. So we're just going to undock, try to get Bill back home, and it occurs to me that I believe some of these science implements have not been used, although some of them can't be used. Let's go ahead and... oh no. No, we'll keep that data. I swear I had one of these unused. See, there's the one from the East Farside crater. But can we should be able to take a second one. Alright, while in space high over the East Farside crater. Okay, whatever. We'll go with it. Alright, let's go ahead and plot our maneuver to get back home. We're a little bit cockeyed on our orbit, but in terms of getting back, that won't matter. It may make getting back to Kerbal Space Center tricky. Need to change the inclination there a bit, see if I can't clean this up a bit. Come a little bit more to equatorial return trajectory. Alright, what's that do to our periapsis? Still way too high. Alright, that's not the ideal burn position. Let's shift it around. Okay, here we go. I'm actually going to let that sit just out of the atmosphere like that, because I may actually want to get into a orbit around Kerban rather than just a return, in order to try to return in the general vicinity of the Kerbal Space Center. I really don't want to fly this, you know, for half an hour or something like that to try to get to a safe landing spot once I'm within the atmosphere. Don't worry, if that does happen, I will go ahead and cut the video and skip ahead. No sense in showing all that. It's not super exciting. I've had to do that once or twice. And jet fuel is efficient, you can do it. It's just not terribly exciting to watch. I just turn the SAS on and let it go, and that's about all there is to it, really. Alright, I figure this will be a fairly short burn. I'll be surprised if it's more than 35 or 40 seconds. So we'll get this fast forwarded down nice and close. And then we'll do the typical test burn. See what the timing is and recalibrate if necessary. Before we do that though, I'm going to make sure we've got the right engine active, got that and the other four, and we're close to the other spacecraft, so it's still showing that for some reason it does that. Might be a glitch. It'd be nice to see him clean that up because it's a little confusing. It'd be a shame if you were... I don't think you can actually stage the other spacecraft by accident, but it'd be a real shame if you were able to do something like that. So I sure hope that's something that they address in version 0.24. Or eventually. It's not super critical. It's just one of those things. Okay. And our maneuver coming up here. Let's go ahead and go for it. That's right. See you, refueler. We are heading home. Home. Back to Kerban, where we will most likely become the fastest air vehicle ever as we re-enter the atmosphere at some, you know, ungodly speed of like 3 kilometers per second or some nonsense. Alright, so how'd that go for us? Alright, just about right. Just about right. Okay. So that actually ended up fairly flat, which is kind of nice. Let's go ahead and drop that down to something resembling a circular orbit. Go ahead and refocus on Kerban because I think that'll make it easier. Okay. What's that burn time? 50 seconds? Oh yeah, we'll have plenty of fuel. Whoa! Ha ha ha. Careful with the fast forwarding. You can very easily shoot past your maneuver nodes if you're not careful. Alright. Let's spin this bad boy around. Of course this burn is happening on the dark side of Kerban, so our vehicle is just a indistinct shape. And now you can kind of see it in the I don't know that it's the Milky Way, but in whatever the background light from the galaxy of which Kerban is a part. Okay, so we'll get this down to 25 seconds where we will begin our burn. Like now. Yeah. Bill seems fairly calm for the moment. He's not as bad as Bob, although he does have a tendency to panic when things are happening. But he can't see what's going on, so he's okay with it, I think. Alright. Come on, baby. Now, even if we burn through all the oxidizer, as long as we have enough to just drop us back into the atmosphere enough for us to get the atmosphere to drag us down, we'll be okay, because we'll have jet fuel left over in these outside tanks, which you can't see at the moment because it's dark. Oh, I overshot a little bit. Okay, we're still out of the atmosphere. Excellent, excellent. Alright, so now let's just go round and round Kerban until the Kerbal Space Center comes into sight, hopefully soon. You know what, I'm going to go over to this other vehicle, because it's slightly higher altitude, so we should be able to fast forward a little bit more quickly. There we go, now we get 100 times. So yeah, I could go for a landing in the dark at Kerbal Space Center, but it's going to make it awfully hard to aim our re-entry trajectory. So I'm just going to, you know, let this go around a bit, and it's like watching a carousel. Not super, super exciting, but here it comes. I promise. Yeah, this mission profile for getting to the moon and back is more fuel efficient than sending up individual rockets to go to the moon. It is, however, in terms of real time, far, far slower. So I'll probably never do this again. But it was an interesting exercise to try to do once. Alright, so let's go ahead and get our return trajectory set. You know what, I got enough oxidizer left. I think I will just wait as late as possible and try to do something like that. Because two things are going to happen. Kerban's going to move underneath us, and we are going to encounter atmosphere, which is of course going to give us drag. So this point will end up coming closer to the Kerbal Space Center. And it'll actually come short, which is what we want, and then we'll fly into the Space Center. We seem to be going directly over it, which is the good news. There we go. This should be a fairly quick burn. So I'm just going to go ahead and run up just about to it before I go ahead and light the engine. We don't need to be super precise here. We'll compensate once we're in the atmosphere. Once the Rapier engine is switched back into closed cycle mode. Yeah, look at that burn down nice and quick. There we go. It'll do. It'll do. Alright. There we go. Now, however, we are facing backwards, and our shield is still open. So we're going to go ahead and close the shield. Spin around to face our direction of motion, because otherwise this will be a very interesting attempt at re-entry. Of course, normally it doesn't matter. Normally you want to be facing towards your anti-velocity vector. However, this is an aircraft, so we want to be going forward so that we can use its wings and its flight controls and that kind of stuff. Well, this is, yeah, I didn't compensate enough for distance, I don't think. Oh well. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stop recording for just a minute and start recording again once I am close to Kerbal Space Center. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. We have used some of our oxidizer and monopropellant to keep our trajectory out in front of Kerban as much as possible. I'm just going to go ahead and burn the last of the oxidizer off. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and manually switch this and back into... Oops, damn. It was in out of closed cycle. Let's change back to air breathing. So now, as we pick up intake air, we will relight the engine as essentially a jet engine. That's a great thing about the Rapier. Very flexible engine. And right now we are just going to let it ride because we are going faster than we could under engine power anyway. Wow, that's not entirely true. At this altitude we could probably travel at something close to this speed. But we're just going to leave it be. We're still coming in a little bit short. So as we get down into an area where we can actually get good purchase, good oxygen intake, we're going to go ahead and light up our engine now and just head for home, head back for Kerbal Space Center. I would like to level this off just a bit until we get past the mountains and then go ahead and pretty much glide it back home. I might leave the engines on just a bit just to keep control. I see Bill's kind of stretching there for a bit or something. He's been in this cockpit for a few days. Oh, maybe he's just clapping. He's just excited he's coming home. He's surprisingly calm about this whole thing. He does seem to enjoy flying. Well, maybe not. Now he's freaking out. As soon as I say that, he starts freaking out. It's supposed to... Bob will freak out when anything happens. Jeb's cool unless he's about to explode. Bill is somewhere in between. I still can't always get a feel for him. Sometimes he's cool. Sometimes he's excited. Other times he's, like now, kind of freaking out. Look, there's home, Bill. Relax. Yes, come in, Kerbal Space Center. Come in, Kerbal Space Center. We have visual contact with the landing strip. Well, sort of. It's, 80 kilometers away. See, we can get there easily on this jet engine. We are barely eating the fuel, even at full throttle here. We won't be using it all that quickly. We are still reasonably high up, but I want to get past these mountains. Then we can drop down nice and low and ease on in. Because if you're too high as you approach the runway, bad things can happen. You end up coming in too fast, you smash, hit your engine, take your landing gear off, or the wings even come off, or some other such terrible thing. So we'd rather be low and use the engines to maintain altitude rather than have to drop down at the last minute. So here we go, about to clear the mountains. We're just underneath it. There's some pretty extreme peaks here. This one in particular. I don't know what kind of geological processes would form a feature like that, but it's pretty impressive. I gotta say, it's some nice deep valleys and stuff here, but the only kind of crazy, well, I guess there's a pretty nasty little peak there too. This is sort of the the outlier, the oddball formation. I suppose there could have been giant glaciers in here or something at one time. Alright, so having passed the mountains, we're just gonna nose down. See, we're still 40 kilometers away. We have about 7 kilometers of altitude to bleed off. Since the landing field's only at, you know, a few meters above sea level. So now that we can actually see the runway, I'm just going to kind of maneuver off to that direction until it looks like I'm straight on to my current position. Then I'll just turn back towards 90 so that I can approach right along the equator back to the landing strip. The fact that they put Kerbal Space Center on the equator of Kerban for this game very much simplifies a lot of things. Of course, in the real world, there aren't any launch facilities I know of that are right on the equator. They're pretty much all off to some degree or another. Of course, whenever possible, you try to get close. Of course, that's why NASA's, you know, most famous flight facilities are in the south of the U.S. They're in Florida and places like that. Because it's closer to the equator, because it means you've got less of, you know, less of an angular ground track. You're closer to the equator of the Earth. You're gonna, you know, you're gonna be able to get up into a flatter trajectory, a flatter orbit, with less of a correcting burn. You know, if you were to launch from Alaska or someplace, you know, far to the north, you would have a fairly huge correction to attempt to, you know, if you were trying to get to geosynchronous orbit, say, which is where a lot of satellites like to be, you would have to do an awful lot of burn just to correct your inclination. So they placed the Kerbal Space Center at the equator for simplicity's purposes. And it does make also this landing easier, because I know that when I'm facing directly to the 90-degree mark, I am oriented parallel to the runway, so now all I have to do is make sure I'm in the glide path. It looks like we're pretty straight onto it right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and point right at the 90 and more or less stay there, unless things become apparent that they're off as we get close. Still got about, see, that's a little bit past the end of the runway there where that marker is from the fuel station launch debris. So we got about 9 kilometers maybe to the end of the runway. So I'm going to try to drop down nice and low here and get set up for the landing. I hope you guys think this is interesting, those few of you who are likely watching this. Thought I'd show this whole approach and landing, because this is sort of a tricky thing to do. Some people might be curious how you do it. So here it is, just small corrections, a little bit at a time. We're going to go ahead and cut velocity cut throttle anyway, to try to slow down. So what we want to do is, as we get close, we want to flare up the nose and cut the throttle essentially to nothing. And let me put the gear down before I forget. And that way we will just sort of fall onto the pad. We don't want to fly into it. That would sort of be bad news. Alright, so here we go. Let's cut the throttle way down, just enough so that we're getting some control assist. This thing actually glides pretty well. I could probably just cut this to 0. In fact, I think I'll do that since I'm over the runway. Come on, baby. Come on. Come on. Nice and steady. Nice and steady. Alright, touchdown. Whoa. Whoa, whoa. Brake, 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 brake. Woo! Yeah, nice light vehicle. Brakes quite quickly. Alright, so Bill has made it home. He even landed on the runway. The mountains in the background and everything. Yeah! Alright, recover. How much science did we actually get out of this mission? 425 science, basically. That's not too shabby. Alright, so let's see if we can actually unlock anything with that. We may or may not even be able to, because pretty much everything that's left is pretty high end. Well, we could get that. Unfortunately, the one I want, very heavy rocketry to get the orange tank and the mainsail engine, is 550 science, so we're not going to be able to get that just yet. Metamaterials would be nice too, because we got some of these, you know, one large to multiple small connectors. which might be nice for us to do, put multiple atomic engines, say, onto a large fuel tank. So we might have to do some more missions in order to get this. In fact, maybe I'll do a mission to someplace like Moho, or what's that other one? That kind of asteroid planet. In order to get some more science in preparation for our mission to Laythe, because I don't want to get there too soon. I want to unlock the tech tree. I want to show you guys what's going on here. We don't really want to rush to it. Oh, because we're getting close. We're getting close. If we just unlock a few more, really these two are the two that I want in order to get there. The rest of this sort of not super critical. Don't really need wheels. I have the jet wheels, which is what I need. The large solar panels might be nice. These are all really probe parts. Don't really need all those things. So we can afford to do, some more interesting missions to unlock the last couple of things I need before we go ahead and do our Operation Laythe, culmination mission. And even after I do that, we might continue to do stuff. I'm still working out where exactly I'm going with this. So let's get... Ooh, man, now I don't know what I want to get. That's really why I'm rambling on. I'm stalling for time as I consider what I want to do. I'm not really worried about this. I don't need any of these parts, I don't think. I don't need this. I have all the parts I need for the plane. That's going to go to Laythe. And I'll do another planetary mission to unlock one or hopefully both of these. So I think what I'll do is I'll go and get this larger battery, the 1000 charge, and the large solar arrays, the Gigantor XL solar array. So let's go ahead and do that. And it's just for curiosity's sake, see what we unlocked. We unlocked an even larger battery. Ooh, and the radioisotope thermoelectric generator. Basically a mini, for those of you who don't know what it is, basically a miniature atomic generator, essentially. In this case, based on a made-up element called plutonium-238, which is supposed to be like plutonium. It's also waterproof and dishwasher safe. I've never noticed that before, but that's a good way. You plug one of those onto a ship, it won't run a lot of things because it doesn't generate power super fast, but it will keep at least, the probe, the unmanned capsule running indefinitely. But if you wanted to power something high demand like a xenon engine or something like that, it's just not going to get the job done. So in any case, it's about all we can do in the science area for now. I honestly expected that to take longer. So I think what we're going to do is, before we call this an episode, let's quick drop in here, find some new guys that we're going to go ahead and get ready for another interplanetary mission, because most of these guys have gotten to do some cool interplanetary mission or other. So we're going to go and grab Jurwise. That's a fun name. We'll get Jurwise Kerman, hire him on board. And Henry, that's actually a normal name. We don't want you. You're too normal to be in Kerbal Space Program. We'll take Amber. Alright, so these are our candidates for the next mission. He's courageous and stupid. That's exactly what we want in a Kerban, well, a Kerbanaut. But that will be in the next episode as we begin to develop our mission to... I'm going to decide on the spot where our next mission is to. I think we will go to Drez. Yeah, let's do Drez. It'll be a bit of a challenge. It's got this funky elliptical orbit. No, it's not. Well, it is also it's an elliptical orbit, and it's an inclined orbit. So even though it's a small body, it won't take much of a lander to get there. Getting there will be something of a trick. So I think that'll be our next target for our brand new Kerbanauts. Alright, so once again, thank you for watching Operation Laythe here in Kerbal Space Program. And from the Kerbal Space Center, I am Southern Wolverine, wishing you all a good day.